When I was 25 years old, I dove off a diving board and over-rotated, and I hit this kid in the top of his head with the back of my left calf. By the end of the evening, my calf had swelled up almost to the same size as my thigh. And I was in so much pain, and I could not figure out what was going on. Two of my best friends, one of them became my wife later, drove me over to a friend of ours. He took one look at me and said, "We've got to get you to the hospital now." We get to the hospital, and what I'm learning along the way as we're going, that I have a compartment syndrome. They took me into emergency surgery, and I stayed in the hospital for a week. A couple of weeks after that, I went to the doctor. He took out my stitches, and I still couldn't walk. And I just was blown away by how painful this was. And even the movement in my legs, I could not move my left foot, my left leg, more than about 2 inches in front of my right as I was even trying to walk. So they took out my stitches, and they said, "It's most likely that you will have a limp now the rest of your life." Again, I was shocked. Number one, the pain of hearing that and the physical pain that I was in. But a couple of weeks later, as everything began to heal, I started physical therapy. It was excruciatingly painful. But over the next several weeks, I was able to put more and more weight on that leg and take bigger steps. I was convinced I was not going to walk with a limp. I loved to run. I loved to play tennis back then. So what I want to say about stage 1 pain is that it comes as a result of something that happens to us, that by and large, it's out of our control. Over time, the initial pain will fade. And then comes stage 2. Stage 2 is where the personal choice begins to come to the surface, and it gets exercised. How we respond or how we react to the pain reveals a great deal about us in that very moment. Once the initial pain begins to subside, we have to decide how to proceed. Just like me, after that doctor told me that I would probably have a limp the rest of my life, at some point you have to choose to take the relational risks to re-engage. You have to be willing to take the risk of being hurt again. You need to be willing to let yourself have a life, really. And if you don't, you'll be trapped and controlled by the betrayal.